martin.jpg. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to jump into full screen mode by hitting the F key a couple of times on my keyboard. I'm going to switch to the move tool just to get the brush out of my way here on the image. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to duplicate this image, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. I'm going to do Command J or Control J, and I'm going to hit that twice to create two new copies. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up to the filter menu. This time I'm going to choose Other, and I'm going to select High Pass, much the same way we did when we were sharpening images. But this time we're going to keep this at a lower amount. We're going to select this to be 4 pixels, like so. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And we're going to come back now on this layer, and we're going to change this layer's blend mode to Vivid Light. Now once you have that blend mode selected, what you're going to do now is you're going to merge down with the layer beneath it. So you're going to go ahead now and hit Command E on the Mac, Control E on the PC, just to merge those layers together. And then you're going to duplicate this layer by using Command or Control J. Now you're going to come back to the filter menu again. This time you're going to choose Other one more time, and you're going to select High Pass once again. This time in the High Pass dialog box, you're going to increase the radius of this to about 6 pixels. Then we're going to go ahead and click OK again. Now we're going to lower the opacity of this layer simply by hitting the number 4 key on our keyboard. That's going to lower the opacity of this layer to 40%, and then we're going to change the blend mode of this layer to color. So all the way down here at the bottom, select color. Now what we're going to do is we're going to merge that layer down again. We're just going to use Command or Control E to merge that with the layer beneath it again. Then we're going to duplicate that layer by using Command or Control J. And this time we're going to come back up to the filter menu again. We're going to choose Blur and select Gaussian Blur. Now in the Gaussian Blur dialog box, we don't want the blur to be quite this significant, so we're going to lower this to about 7 pixels, like so. Go ahead and click OK. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer mask to this layer by coming down and clicking on the layer mask icon. Then we're going to fill this layer mask with 50% gray by coming up to Edit, Fill, and then choosing 50% gray from the options there. Go ahead and click OK. That's just going to lessen the blur by about 50% there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to grab our brush tool. You can do that by hitting the B key on your keyboard or simply by coming over here and clicking on the brush tool. And you're going to make sure your foreground color is set to black. I'm going to lower the size of my brush, and you're just going to brush out the areas around his eyes right here. So just like that, we're going to brush out those areas of the eyes. You can also, to add a little bit more of a dramatic effect, let me shrink the size of my brush a little bit. I'm going to brush in his teeth as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to the Move tool by hitting the V key on my keyboard. And so now we're ready to merge this layer down with the layer beneath it again. So we'll go ahead and merge that layer down by using Command or Control E. Now what we're going to do is we're going to really sharpen this image. This is going to give us that really over-sharpened, really gritty type of look to this image, and it's really an amazing effect when you get down to it. So we're going to come up to the filter menu, this time choosing Sharpen, and I'm just going to select Unsharp Mask. And inside the Unsharp Mask dialog box, I'm going to change my amount to 100. I'm going to switch my radius to 30. And I'm going to leave my threshold at 0. Then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now this is pretty much the basis for this tutorial. However, you can take this one step farther, and that's by smoothing out the skin tones a little bit. Because a lot of times when you're creating this little effect here, a lot of people like to smooth out the skin tones to give it that sort of plastic feel. So what we can do now is we can Control click, or on PC right click, convert this to a smart object. Then we'll just come up here to the filter menu. We'll choose Blur and select Surface Blur. Inside the Surface Blur dialog box, I'll have my radius set to 5 and the threshold at 15. Go ahead and click OK there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select the Smart Filter Layer Mask. I'll invert that to hide the effects of that. I did that by hitting Command or Control I on my keyboard. Now I'll select my brush tool again. I'll increase the size of the brush to about 100 pixels. I'll make sure that my opacity is about 50%. And I'm going to switch the foreground color of my brush to white by hitting the X key on my keyboard. Now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to brush back in some of those smoother skin tones right here on this image. So we're going to smooth out these tones just to give him more of a plastic-like appearance as far as his skin tones go. And once we're finished with this, we should have achieved what everyone likes to call basically the look. And this is just a really popular technique that you see all the time nowadays with people when they're finishing off their photographs. They create this really high contrast, over sharpened look. And this is something that's so popular nowadays, and everybody wants to know how to do it. So there you go. That's how you achieve the look.